So, good evening, everyone. This is going to be, I'm going to be basically creating a demo for each of the separate kind of examples that we're going to be doing for the next assignment here. So, in class, I created an example for, or a demo for the value study. And for this, I'm going to go ahead and recreate that demo for the value study first. I won't do the second part of the assignment where I do the grisaille or the layering of a translucent layer of pigment over the surface of that value study, because that's what we did at the demo, and I'll just show you a picture of that. But we'll go ahead and get started with the demo. So for right now, this is going to be a value study. So all I'm using are the black and white to create the darks and the light values and all of the ranges in between. And as I said, we're going to be taping our poster board down. You want to cut the poster board, a regular size poster board, into 4 separate pieces. And those 4 pieces will give you 4 separate sheets that you will then gesso and then tape down as close to about 1/4 inch into your sheet, just so you can actually have a framework that's going to be around the entire piece. All right. After you do that, you want to take a pencil, colored pencil, and I'm going to get a little bit of a darker one here. So we'll take a colored pencil and we will just sketch lines in, okay? So you won't be attempting to really draw the lines in, you're going to really just sketch. So first and foremost, you're going to find about the halfway mark, the vertical, on the horizontal, and then you want to go drop down about 1 inch or so from the halfway mark, and you want to draw a line all the way across. Real simple, just a little line all the way across. And then from there, after you have that line in, then what you want to do is to draw a circle that is going to kind of intersect part of that line that you've drawn. Circle needs to be fairly large in space, and you want to make sure that you have the circle. Think of it as a line that's going to be vertical line down the center. You want to draw that circle to the left of that line. All right. The reason we're doing that is we want to have a shadow that is going to basically extend into the other side or the other half of the composition. All right. Please don't draw the lines in very hard or very dark, because if you do, you'll have a tendency to kind of want to stay inside lines, or basically draw the line and paint inside and outside of those lines. You don't want to do that. You want to have it as sketchy as possible. And for the first part of the assignment, we are going to be using your large flat brush. And you're going to be only using flat brushes in here. So we're going to use a large flat brush. All right. And then we also have a bit of a smaller flat brush for any details that we're going to be using. So we're going to use a large and a smaller flat brush. Okay. And for this one, all of your strokes, all your brush strokes are going to be vertical brush strokes, all in the same, basically going the same direction. Okay. So when we start out, we will be creating what's called a ground. And the ground is going to be a mid-value gray that you're going to basically just put throughout the entire composition. You do want to divide the top from the bottom here. So I'm using a bit of water to kind of thin the paint out some, but you're going to be dividing the top from the bottom, and you're going to just basically make a series of vertical strokes. You don't want to worry too much about the lines that you've created. Don't worry about those so much. You're only using those lines to create a sense of a composition. You're not really trying to use those lines as a line of demarcation between where you paint and where you don't paint. All right. So since acrylic paint is a fast drying pigment, then we can basically go in and paint over any area that we might find to be kind of a part that we don't really want to sort of stand out. If you want a very clean and kind of pristine painted sort of demo work here, then allow it to dry and then go back over it, and you can actually get it to where it'll be a lot more clean and direct. Okay. But for this, I do want to see those vertical strokes. All right, so we're going to have a backdrop, a ground here, and we're going to make the base a little bit lighter. And the reason we're going through this is the fact that you have a background right now that is light, the lightest that light can get. I mean, it's a white backdrop. Then everything that you put on it, with the exception of white paint, is going to automatically be darker than it. And we don't want to have a situation where you're only painting dark values and you're not really dealing with any light values. So we want to make something that we consider a ground to be in a way that we can actually create lights and darks. And from this, I'm actually painting from the example that I have in the Dropbox on the file that we have in the Dropbox here. So if you're not certain on where the shadow should go or where the ball should be or anything like that, then you can use that example that's in the Dropbox with the file, and you can use that as an example. So all of your brush strokes are going to be vertical brush strokes. And the reason I'm not really sort of going too far up on my brush, I'm kind of painting a little bit lower or holding it a little bit lower, is just due to the fact that when I'm painting it in, the brush continues to hit the top of it. So I'm trying to paint it at an angle as I'm painting here. All right, and we're going to suggest that the light source that we have, or an example of a light source, is coming from the left and actually moving towards the right. So we're going to say that the lightest of the light on the ball or the sphere that you're going to be creating is going to be from the left, and then it's going to create a series of shadows on the right hand side. I'm not fully expecting everybody to understand how to go about painting a sphere or anything like that. We're really just trying to learn your brush strokes. You're not, completely, I'm not expecting you to completely understand everything at this point in time. So I'm gonna move my light here a little bit so you can kind of see what's going on a little bit more. All right. So I'm not expecting you to have this be the best painting that you're gonna make throughout the semester. That is why you're going to be doing this twice, and then you're going to be making alterations on the other one, on the second one. So we're going to be trying to create a couple of a series. So by the fourth one, you should be able to actually create this in such a way that it looks fairly or reasonably to be a strong painting. All right. So the way that we actually create light, since lights and darks are relative terms, there's no such thing as a light or dark unless you compare it to something else. So we're going to create a series of light values. All right. So in this little spot up here, where we actually have the lighter value of the sphere up there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a relative dark value next to it. And the relative dark value will then bring out the light that we just put down. All right, and I'm moving all over. I'm not staying on one part. I'm moving throughout the piece. And as we continue to move throughout, you'll start to see that the sphere starts to take shape. And when the time comes where this brush is just too big to work with anymore, then I will move down to a smaller brush. But I'm going to try my best to use this brush as much as I can until I can't use it anymore. And when I can't use it anymore, that means that the brush is too large and it's causing more problems than it's solving. Then I'll begin to actually move to a smaller brush. And we're not going to try, to really paint this so clean and perfect or anything like that. We're just kind of getting a sense of the overall look and feel of it. Just be as disciplined as you can with the brush strokes. The more disciplined you are, the easier this project will be. The more restrictive you are of your process, the more difficult this will be. So at this point in time, the large brush is starting to become a little bit of a hindrance. So now I'm going to move down to my smaller brush here, and we'll continue to process. And even though I'm moving to a smaller brush, I'm still going to be using the vertical brush strokes. And you'll see that it's much easier to work with the smaller brush. And I'm not going to be grabbing up near the ferrule, the metal part. I'm going to be moving further back. And just continue to move the brush vertically. Take a look at your object if you're wanting to use the example that's on the sheet. Don't worry too much about your borders or anything like that, because as you work, you can actually run back over or go back over and clean the borders up. And just continue to mix on the surface of your support here. And when you feel it start getting sticky, or the paint starts to get a little bit sticky, then it's going to be best to go ahead and pick up a little more, or douse your brush a little bit in the water. Pick up a little bit of that water. The water helps the paint to move across the surface a lot more. And just like we did on the previous assignment, you want to move back and forth. Even though we're moving with the vertical strokes, I'm going to be moving up and down. I'm going to be pulling pigment in and moving back into those areas. And just by virtue of those wet areas of pigment being mixed together, you're going to get a smooth transition of that value. And like I said, when you actually have those borders, you can actually clean the borders up by just painting up to that area and painting away from it. Don't worry about the lines that you've made. Those lines are far gone. We're not going to worry about them anymore at this point in time. So you can actually just paint into the piece, paint away from it. And this is really about training your eye to see differences in lights and darks to create value ranges. So we want to be able to create a series of ranges of lights and darks so that we can get a sense of the form. The form is not made by pulling in a dark outline. You don't need a dark outline around your object in order for the object to be seen as being separated from the remainder of the area. All right. And this is going to be as pretty close to being finished as possible. I'm just going to go in and kind of clean up, still trying my best to use vertical brush strokes, but I'm going to go in really with a detail and just begin to clean up some of these areas, start to bring out lights and darks a little bit more. And you can be as safe as you want to be, or you can be as loose as you want to be, but you're just trying to create a sense of that sphere here. And then we're going to pull in a little bit more of that dark value underneath and what's called the cast shadow down here. This is considered the cast shadow. So the shadow is just the area that's on the surface of the ball or the sphere that you want to, however you want to call it. But the shadow that is cast upon the surface of the base is called a cast shadow. All right. Okay. So I'm going to call that one basically done. All right. So this is the value study, and this is what we created on the first one. We'll move the light away so you can kind of get a sense of it here. So this is the first one that we dealt with. We were talking about the idea that this is what's, like I said, considered a value study, just lights and darks, and this is what we use to actually create the grisaille or the translucent glaze, if you want to call it that, where I did that in class, where we actually had a red glaze that's actually put over the surface of this. Okay. And this is the example of that red one that was finished in class yesterday. All right, so we get a sense of the same exact process that was here was the same process that's done here. The only difference is you're using the red or blue or yellow, any color that you want to. You're going to be using those colors to create a glaze over the top of your piece. So you're going to be thinning down your pigments and glazing over the top of it. All right. Okay.